Lana Blakely, a feminist who likes Jordan Peterson.
Mr. Reagan.
This is something I've wanted to do for a long time. Interview people with opposite political views to myself. The idea is that maybe they could convince me of some of their ideas, or maybe I could convince them of some of my ideas. One of the people I desperately want to interview is a friend of mine who is an actor in Hollywood. He has always been a Democrat, but he has started recently to start to question some of the hypocrisy, right? Here's the catch. He is a gay Mexican actor. He's the kind of person that no one would ever expect would be considering any right-wing ideas. But he's actually considering voting for Trump in 2020. And I thought his perspective would be a beautiful thing to show on my channel. But he's so scared of the backlash from Hollywood, he's so afraid of getting blacklisted, of never working again, that he refuses to come on the show. I've told him I would backlight him, he'll be completely silhouetted, I would distort his voice using my audio software, which I can totally do. He won't do it. He wants to do it because he recognizes he has a valuable perspective to share with the world, but he can't bring himself to do it because he's so afraid it'll ruin his career. Hollywood is essentially a fascist state. It's pretty horrible. But the girl I want to introduce you to today is Lana Blakely. She is a girl from Sweden. I think she's 22 years old. She's always been a strong feminist, but then she started watching Jordan Peterson, and her perspective started to shift slightly. Now, she still considers herself a feminist, but I thought she had an interesting enough perspective that I thought she would be good to interview on the show. Now, before I play the interview, I've got some bad news. Awful news, actually. I've got to talk about my sponsor. I know, it's a pain, but they are paying me to disseminate reason and rationality throughout the world. So, it's worth a little suffering through a little bit of an ad, right? Right. So, my sponsor is this company, VirtualShield. VirtualShield is a VPN. Interesting thing about VPNs, they're being banned in several countries. Russia is the latest to demand VPNs restrict user access to the internet. They will now join a bunch of other countries who have already banned VPNs, including Belarus, China, Egypt, North Korea, Turkey, and more. Why are they doing this? It's simple. VPNs are not only powerful, but extremely useful for well-informed citizens, and that's why entire countries are working to ban them. Is the United States next? Let's hope not. Your privacy is yours and yours alone. I personally like VirtualShield VPN. They are by far the easiest and fastest VPN around. Their no-log policy protects users from any potential data breaches. This month, VirtualShield is offering an Easter special of 40% off all VPN plans and all premium add-ons, including Protection Plus, residential access, monthly maintenance, phone support, and VPN performance plans for as low as $3 per month. Sign up for a free 30-day trial to VirtualShield VPN and see what the hype is all about. You have nothing to lose. Protect your personal data now. Go to www.virtualshield.com/Mr. Reagan to get 40% off this month. The link is in the description. All right, now without further ado, here is the interview. Lana, I first noticed you because you were commenting on some of my videos, and I think you had something like 9,000 replies on one of your comments, and I was like, who is this girl? What is she, like a famous YouTuber? What's going on? And I went to your page, and you had like 16 followers, and it was weird. I was like, why?
Like 17, but
oh,
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to undercut you. So I watched a couple of your videos, but I think that you have a very interesting perspective. Tell me this. Now, you, in one of your videos, you described yourself as a feminist.
Mm-hmm.
And would you still say that you hold that title? Would you still say that you own that title of feminist?
Well, so when I made that video, I did not have any followers, basically. And then somehow that video, a lot of people saw it, and most of them were male. And, well, you've seen the comment section. I had no idea it was going to get that kind of reaction. So in Sweden, we have left and right, but it's not at all in the same way as in the US.
Sure.
So we don't really have, people aren't as extreme. And so when I got all these comments, I was like, whoa, is this really how people view feminism? I had no idea. Here, it's kind of, people are more in the middle. Like, no one is really extreme. I mean, some people are, of course, but it's not the same as in the US. And so when I got these reactions, I was like, I've never heard of this.
Right.
I've never heard people have this much rage towards feminism and feminists.
Sure.
And so I did just some more research, and I found out that there definitely is a lot of rage that I didn't really know of.
Yeah, we tend to find in the West that oppression or victimization is often used as a weapon, right? So it's used to attack somebody. So it's used to say, well, you're white, so you're a bad person. You know, you're a man, so you don't get to comment on women's issues, right? As if men have no brain and can't perceive things and don't have sisters and don't have mothers and don't have daughters and can't possibly imagine what it's like for a woman. Like, we can't process that in any way whatsoever, which is ridiculous, of course. You know, everybody's perspective is potentially valuable. So, you shouldn't be excluding people from conversations, even if they don't have anything to do with it. An outside perspective might be, even more positive than somebody who's stuck in it. But for some reason, I don't know, on the left in the United States and in Britain and in a lot of, I think a lot of European countries and Australia and these places, if you are considered one of the oppressed class, then you can use this as a weapon against the oppressor classes. And this has caused a great deal of resentment amongst men and, amongst anyone who is considered to be an oppressor class. Generally speaking, it's white people and men. That typically is the groups. Christians also tend to be attacked a lot. I don't know, I think people are kind of tired of it, in America and that. I asked you to watch a movie for me called The Red Pill.
Yeah.
Did you get to see it?
Yeah, I watched it yesterday.
So you watched the Red Pill video. I guess I should ask, what were your first thoughts? What are your initial thoughts?
Well, so I definitely tried to go into it open-minded. I haven't gotten a good impression from red pillers and MGTOWs because of, well, the video I posted. I got a lot of, not just people not agreeing, but people being very aggressive and rude and using a language that I don't think is acceptable, which, I'm always for people having their own opinions and not agreeing with me. That's completely fine. But I'm not with people not keeping it civil.
Right.
So I was like, wow, these men are really aggressive. And then whenever I would leave a comment on, let's say a MGTOW. So I left a comment on a MGTOW guy, I guess, his video on YouTube. I just asked, like, what's your name? Because his real name I thought was not in his YouTube name. A simple question, what's your name?
Right.
But me as a woman asking that on a MGTOW channel, I got all these men calling me nasty names. Like, I'm not going to say those things in this video, but, you can imagine. And I was like, I asked the question.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, there's no need for rudeness. There's no need to call any human these things. So this constant getting this impression that this is just a group of mean, angry, hateful men kind of made it hard for me going into the Red Pill movie open-minded.
Sure.
But I tend to be pretty good at that anyway, so I just try to set all that aside. And yeah, I enjoyed the film. It was interesting. I enjoyed seeing that perspective. I didn't agree with everything said. I wasn't a huge fan of the host at times, but it was interesting to see that side.
Give me an example of something that you didn't agree with.
So I think the main thing I'm struggling with feminism and with MGTOW is that it seems to become this child play of you hurt me, well, you hurt me. That whole thing. And I'm not a fan of that in people whatsoever. It's like when you're in a relationship and you tell your partner, you did that to hurt me. And if their instant response is, well, you did that to hurt me, it's not getting us anywhere.
Right.
It's not helping anyone. It's just making everything worse. And I feel like that's kind of the scene with, well, men's rights and then women's rights and all that. It's turning people against each other instead of uniting us. And I'm kind of having a problem with that whole "you did that, well, you did that" thing.
I don't think that the film was specifically targeting the MGTOW guys. She was specifically targeting the men's rights activists, right? Because I guess the men's rights activists have been traditionally considered the great misogynists, the horrible guys that are trying to oppress women and this sort of thing. The MGTOW thing is a more is a newer phenomenon, and I've seen some videos, some MGTOW videos that I thought were actually pretty reasonable, and I'm not really in that crowd. Those aren't really my people, so I don't know them too well. But it sounds like, from what you're telling me, it seems to me that the way you view MGTOW guys is like the way I view radical feminists, right? Like the women that are screaming at these, trying to pull fire alarms and shut down conversation. I mean, they're calling you names. They're personal attacks. They're not expressing ideas. They're just trying to cut you down. And I don't think there's really, to me, those people are just kind of getting in the way of a real conversation, right?
Yeah.
Now there is, I think that there's a kind of a resentment that men tend to have in contemporary society in America and other places for any kind of feminism, because as far as we're concerned, as far as most of us regular, average Joe men are concerned, feminism made all the strides that were necessary for equality of opportunity in the 60s and 70s. There's no real need for the kind of feminism that you espouse today in Western civilization. We don't think. You may disagree with that. But you said something interesting in your video, which I don't hear a lot of. I mean, you do hear feminists talk about a little bit, but most of the time feminists are talking about what needs to be changed in our culture. And what you said was, I think, much smarter. You said that there's a lot of cultures around the world in which they don't have the same freedoms that we have in the West. And that is a much better focus, I think, for feminism than trying to fix Sweden, in which, I mean, that you're not really oppressed in Sweden. But some women are, right? Some women, they don't have the same rights as men in a lot of different countries. They do not have the same opportunities. And so maybe there should be a distinction, right? Maybe there should be a distinction made between the, radical feminist, in the West, trying to fix the patriarchy, which doesn't exist, and what you have, which I would maybe call international feminism. Maybe we should create a division called international feminism, which specifically targets regions of the world in which feminism is needed. And I would agree with you that in these places, it would be nice if we could make some strides towards helping the women there, without neglecting guys too much. Did you see the bit about the African terrorists, Boko Haram?
Yeah.
And how they had killed all of these boys? To me, that was one of the most striking things. I mean, obviously there's a lot of injustice for men in the court system in America and this sort of thing, but that to me was really striking. I mean, it said a lot about our values in the West,
Definitely. I mean, I just want to say oppression is happening in Sweden as well, not to the extent that in a lot of other countries, but honor killings are still happening here, and so on. But definitely, I think.
But that is the immigrant community there. That's not the Swedes.
Well, no, yeah, I'm just talking about in Sweden,
right, sure, of course, yeah.
Because you think of Sweden and it's all Swedes, but it's
right.
It's different cultures and different things are happening. But yeah, definitely, I think for me, it's always been more of in the Middle East, for example, where there's no denial that feminism is needed.
Yeah.
And I think what I'm trying to do kind of is divide or split myself from the radicals and that kind of feminism, because I don't identify myself as being one of them. but people aren't really allowing you to do that. You know, they see the word feminism and that's it. It means you're this and you're that, and you hate men and you want women to be superior. And, you know, so it's definitely a challenge to, you know, express yourself and try to explain, well, I don't see it that way, because people are like, no, you do. Just, you know, I had people commenting like, so I started my video saying I'm a feminist. And I got so many comments like, I stopped watching the second you said I'm a feminist. And it's like, well, you know, you must not have much of an open mind if that's how you do things, you know?
I don't think it's that. I think it's that I don't think you realize how strongly the radical feminists have sort of abducted the term feminist, right? So, and also, I do think that a lot of guys just believe that it is an irrational proposition to be a moderate feminist in modern day Sweden or modern day America, right? Because women do tend to have more advantages in contemporary society, in Western civilization, than men. We perceive it that way. And you mentioned that they have honor killings and stuff in Sweden, but you're specifically talking about the immigrant communities, and that brings up the topic of multiculturalism. Like, how valuable is multiculturalism actually if cultures aren't assimilating to the culture that they're, entering into, right? If the Muslims that are coming into Sweden aren't becoming Swedes, right? They're remaining, wherever they're from, that culture from wherever they're from, and they're continuing to perpetrate these kinds of crimes that would be to them not considered crimes, but perfectly ethical. Burning cars, raping Swedish women, all the really horrible things that you hear about in the news. Is that really an ideal situation? Obviously not. Obviously, it's a horrible situation. And that's something that, to me, that's a completely separate subject. And if you call yourself a feminist, if you want to call yourself a feminist and say, okay, well, I'm going to be a feminist in Sweden, but I'm specifically opposed to the cultural influences of, these immigrants, you're not really a feminist in Sweden. Unless you genuinely think that Swedish culture, right, a traditional Swedish culture, as it stands today in 2019, actually oppresses women. I don't know. I haven't actually asked you that question. So do you think that Swedish culture oppresses women?
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that it does. And I think, so my biggest kind of, what I care about the most, I guess, is women being sexualized and people seeing women as nothing more than caregivers and baby makers. And also this whole culture of calling women different names. And, it's, if she does that, she's a slut. If she does that, I'm not really going to go through all the terms, but, this whole thing, I think the point is just, let women be. Kind of, let them make their own decisions. Let them do whatever they want, as long as they're not hurting you or hurting society, which I don't believe they are.
Well, how about this? Be respectful.
Yeah, be a decent, respectful human being. Sure. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter.
Yes, and I think that is reasonable, a completely reasonable thing to say, desperately needed, to be heard by some people. But I actually don't think that we have an epidemic of highly disrespectful men, believing that women's... I don't think so. I think that you have a unique experience, having posted that video.
Well, yeah, I do think I kind of... I hope I have a unique experience.
But outside that experience, I can't imagine that...
No, definitely. No, definitely, you're right. I hope there are not too many women experiencing what I have been experiencing online.
Right.
Because it's horrible.
Sure.
Luckily I'm pretty strong mentally and I can easily brush off certain things. But every time I get one of these comments, I'm just thinking, I hope another person who is not as mentally strong or not as mentally stable receives these comments.
Right.
Because it can be very hurtful and have drastic consequences.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. What percentage of the population of Sweden, the United States, whatever, Western civilization, do you think are the kind of radical feminists that you saw in the Red Pill video? The really crazy ones, that are like shouting at people, calling them,
I think in
monsters.
Sweden, definitely not that many. I mean, we're not on the streets shouting. I mean, I don't know if that's ever happened in that way that it happens in Canada and in the US. So we have this word in Sweden, it's called lagom. So lagom means in the middle, not too much, not too little.
Okay. Right.
It's only Swedes that have that word,
Like
I think.
balance.
And yeah, like balance, like not too much, not too little, not too good, not too bad. Like
We
we're
would, in
keeping
America,
everything.
I think we would say measured. A person would be measured.
Well, yeah, I guess, but we use this for everything. Like if you ask someone, can you bring me some food? How much? Lagom, like not too much, not too little.
Yeah.
And we use this for everything. And I think that's kind of how we see politics as well.
Yeah.
And all kinds of movements, like don't be too much, but also not too little. Just keep it in the middle. And that's what I've grown up with, and that's what I've seen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think we have that in Oregon too. We just don't have the word.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where I'm from, we're pretty much about as normal as you can be. When people are saying like weird is good and all this kind of stuff, like people from Portland, which is in Oregon, but it's an island. I'm the people that they're against. I'm one of the normals.
Okay.
And I think you are too. I mean, obviously, you seem pretty normal to me, but you never know. You could be completely insane. And I'm just.
I
Not
mean, yeah,
touching
this could all be acting.
This
so.
could all be an act, yeah.
All-
Okay, what was I going to say? Oh, yeah. So you discovered Jordan Peterson. Tell me how Jordan Peterson impacted you. Did that in any way change your perspective on things?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the very first video I saw with Jordan was with Kathy Newman, and classic.
Yeah, a good one.
That was pretty eye-opening, because me identifying as a feminist, seeing another woman identifying as a feminist, being so ignorant, I guess, I was kind of shocked. And that was when I was kind of introduced to this whole radical feminists and this whole being in denial thing that I would see again and again. And then I started looking into Jordan, and I think he's brilliant, and I think he definitely resonates with women just as much as men, I would say. So I know most of his crowd is men, but me as a woman, I don't see how I've gained any less from listening to him than any man. So, yeah.
That's great. Well, okay, so let me ask this. In the film, The Red Pill, there's a woman named Karen Strong. Do you remember her from the film? And she said something pretty interesting. She said, from the perspective of feminists, right, all the evils in the world are given a male name, the patriarchy. And all the good in the world, the heroism, is given a female name, right? Feminism. Do you think it's a good idea to equate positive progress purely with the female and all the oppression and negativity in the world exclusively with the male?
No, definitely not. And I think that's how most people view feminism. You know, everything that's feminine in women, we should celebrate and should be good, and everything that's male should be, is bad and they're oppressors. And no, I definitely don't think that's good at all. I think, at the end of the day, me as a feminist, I do believe in equality. So if women are celebrated, men should be celebrated. If their negatives are being brought to light, so should women's. No one should be advantaged over the other. That's not what I believe. Which seems, people think that's strange, a feminist saying that, and they're thinking I have an agenda or that I'm lying, or, that's the truth. And yeah.
All right, one last proposition. does it occur to you that if there are so many people that perceive feminism as radical feminism, and so many people who think that in our contemporary society, feminism really isn't needed because women have advanced so significantly. Maybe one should not label themselves a feminist because it just carries so much weight, right? So much negativity with it.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been thinking a lot about the term feminism and, is it a good idea for me to call myself a feminist when so many of my views seem to not align with what people perceive as feminism? I've definitely been thinking about those things, but to me, as for now, all I'm saying is that these are my beliefs. So I will keep calling myself a feminist, but I do realize that I'm further and further, or I'm kind of drifting further and further away from the ideas that a lot of feminists have, like equality of outcome and the wage gap and things like that, that I don't necessarily agree with, which as a feminist, you're supposed to realize these things and agree with them and fight for them. And that's not the issues that I'm focused on. That's not the issues that I find prevalent. So I'm kind of going my own way.
So you're going to MGTOW. You're going to be a MGTOW.
Like a WGTOW.
Yeah,
in a
WGTOW,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that's funny.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you can start your own movement, the WGTOW movement.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely not call it WGTOW because
Sure, you have this.
I'm not a fan of the MGTOWs.
I understand that.
Maybe I'll call it something else. Just people being respectful human beings and wanting everyone to be treated with the same amount of respect.
Sure, absolutely.
And
right.
decency.
Yeah, absolutely right. And you know what? If you want to keep calling that feminism, that's fair. That's perfectly fair. But I'm not going to call you a feminist. You know what I'm going to call you?
Lana?
Sorry? Lana?
Lana?
Well, yeah, obviously Lana. But what is it? Logum?
Logum?
What is it? What's the word in
Oh, logom.
Logom. Oh yeah, well, big difference. Logom. I'm going to call you a logomist, and that's what you're going to be to
good.
me. Yeah, right? Logomism.
I actually like that.
I think the two of us we'll be the first logomists.
Yeah.
We'll start the movement.
But it's a guy and a girl, so it's like...
That's right. It's
everyone is
perfectly...
invited,
I absolutely love it. And Lana, I think you're actually a very cool person, and you give me hope for the world.
You're really cool too.
I hope your channel blows up. And guys, if you're gonna go over to her channel, if you're one of the MGTOW guys, be nice to her. She's a cool girl, right? She practices logom.
Yeah, I actually really like that.
Yeah. All right, Lana, it was absolutely lovely speaking with you. And
you too.
We'll have to do this again at some point, maybe when you're in LA.
Definitely. I mean, I'll be there in the spring, so maybe the whole tech situation will be better.
Yeah, you could actually just come over.
Exactly.
All right, I think that's it. I think that's good. I think we got it.
That was a great ending. That was great. I like how it was... So when you first asked me, I wasn't sure if you were trying to like...
Oh, right. You didn't know if it was going to be antagonistic.
Yeah, if you were going to be kind of one of the MGTOW guys. Like,
right,
I enjoy that it was more of a conversation. And yeah, I watched some of your videos before.
Yeah.
Like more videos to see like what kind of vibe I was getting.
Yeah. Was it
No, you
terrifying?
seemed really chill.
Okay, good.
No, you seemed like... I mean, at first I didn't know because, I saw the video where you were like at the Women's March.
That would probably be.
And I was like, like maybe he's trying to get me too or something.
Because I was trying... Well, listen, I'll tell you what. I despite the fact that I was making those women kind of look silly, I was not really trying to. I mean... In a way, I wanted them to, if they had irrational beliefs, I kind of wanted them to explode, and to like really go after me and shout at me, because that makes good YouTube videos, right? That could go viral or something. But aside from that possibility, I wanted to genuinely engage, like have a good conversation like I had with you today, because I think that's how you progress the conversation. That's how you learn from each other. And honestly, like I've never met a guy in America, really no Americans that I've ever met, or Brits, or that I could think of, no Brits, maybe some Aussies, no Canadians for sure, are like just baseline disrespectful of women. I one time I was in Paris, and I started to talk to these Polish girls. I used to, when I was back in my dating years, I used to just look around the room and find the most beautiful girl and then just go up to her. That was my thing, right? That was my thing. So I go up to this girl, and we ended up talking all night, and I ended up leaving. And these other two guys are like, hey, we saw you talking to that, ridiculously beautiful girl. And these guys were from, like, I think Croatia or something, like an Eastern European country. And I said, yeah. And they go, why would you talk to her? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She was fantastic. She was beautiful. She was charming. She was great. She was like everything I would want to, date a girl. And they're like, dude, she's never going to sleep with you. She's too beautiful. The hot ones never sleep with you. And I'm like, well, I wasn't necessarily trying to get her to sleep with me. And they're like, why not? That's the whole point. Like that's our whole mentality. It's just like use the girl, like find the girls that are weak, or find the girls that are vulnerable, exploit that, get them to sleep with you, and then move on. And I just thought, like, what a couple of real douchebags. Like these were just guys that were staying in the hostel with me. And there's definitely guys like that in the country, in the U.S. But I haven't met a lot of them. So for me, my experience is more relatively nice guys, and most of the guys that I meet who are maybe not 100% great at talking to women or whatever, they don't turn it into something where they're just like, they don't do that. But the guys that I know who have trouble talking to women, they just are desperately trying to find a way to get some girl or another to fall in love with them. So they're constantly like, Chris, what do I do? How do I talk to these women? How do I get this girl to like me, right? And so I kind of try to walk them through it and stuff. But they're really good guys. They're really good guys. They just don't have the confidence, and so I would say that, and that's probably, I would bet you, and you haven't told me this yet, but I would bet you that's your experience too.
Yeah, I'm definitely not, like the internet world that I've seen is completely different from real life. Like I don't meet guys that are douchebags or idiots. Like I haven't experienced catcalling since I was in my teens, and things like that. So I think it's, I don't know, maybe I'm just not in that scene. Like I don't really go out to these places or.
Well, what I think it is just that it's a very small minority of people, and the reason that you see them all on the internet is because if you have one guy in every village who's a douchebag, who's a real, hateful guy, they can all find each other on the internet. But it would be more difficult to gather in person. I would actually bet you, I would bet you that there are far more radical feminists that hate men and that want to bring men down and raise women up, as a kind of penalty, I suppose, for historic injustices or the patriarchy or whatever they think is going on, than there is the MGTOW guys. I think that they are the extreme minority. There is a kind of what you might call a soft sexism, which is the tendency for men, which I wrote about on my little comment. Where a guy with a low self-esteem might learn these tricks to be kind of a dick to girls so that the girl will like him. And I find that those kind of guys are dangerous in a couple of ways. One, they trick girls who have low confidence into like sleeping with them or whatever. But then also, those guys, even if they can get the girl to sleep with them, they're still afraid that if the girl figures out who they really are, she's not going to like them. So the guy will just run to the next girl, and that's how you get these guys that are sort of predatory, and they just go for one night stands and that's it. Because I don't think they really believe anybody will love them, and that's really tragic, And I think that goes to some extent the neglect that we have for men in our society. Like we don't. It's weird. my dad never taught me how to talk to girls, which is a weird thing because he was a pretty charismatic guy. He could have, but he didn't. And I don't know that somehow we lost that tradition of teaching your son how to go get girls, you know? So I had to just kind of figure it out on my own. And thank God I'm awesome.
That's good. You should have confidence.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think everyone should have confidence.
Yeah, definitely. Me too. I think, there's a huge difference between being confident and being a douchebag.
It's exactly what I wrote in the thing. Yeah. Exactly
yeah, and
right.
I think a lot of men think that, well, being a douchebag means that I'm confident, but the thing is, if you have to act that you're confident in order to meet girls, you should work on yourself first to actually become confident before trying to approach girls, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Work on yourself first. I actually have a whole article where I'm like, look, if you want to upgrade the kind of girls you're getting, I don't know, somewhere on a computer somewhere. I posted it once years ago and I took it down. But the article says something like, if you are a guy who wants to get girls that are better than you think you can get, just become that good yourself.
Yeah.
Just become that great yourself. Because it really, because honestly, if you want to, and this is actually good advice for you and for any girl, I don't know what your dating situation is like, but any girl who wants to find their dream man, really the level that you are of a girl in terms of your looks and your personality and all that kind of stuff, that is the same level that a man needs in his confidence.
And I do want to say that, having great confidence doesn't mean that you don't have insecurities. Everyone has insecurities, and it doesn't mean that you should be have to put on this facade that, oh, I don't have insecurities, I love myself, I'm perfect. To me, that's not confidence. Confidence is just being able to make decisions and believing in yourself and having a vision, having goals in your life, not letting others put you down, not falling for peer pressure, all these things. That's, confidence. Well,
you kind of subtly touched on really what my definition of confidence is. My definition of confidence isn't some kind of illusion that you're perfect. It's the recognition.
That's delusional because no one is.
That's exactly. So it's the recognition of your qualities or your values and your flaws. And it's saying, look, I may fall short in certain areas, but that's okay because I'm good here. So I can work on these shortcomings and I can acknowledge them and I'm good with that, right? I'm okay with it. If you can recognize your shortcomings, work on them, and all the while, recognizing your value and exploiting it for whatever it is you need to exploit it for social gain or financial gain or whatever. We all kind of try to, somehow try to use whatever it is that we're good at or what values that we have to climb the ladder of life, climb up the hierarchies. Yeah. But a lot of the people, they want to recognize the things that they're good at, and they just don't even want to acknowledge the things that are bad at. And that is just utterly detrimental,
Yeah, that's not confidence. Yeah, we definitely agree on that. So, yeah, I mean, it's interesting how guys, in my comments section and things like that are, I don't think most of them understand what confidence is the way that we understand it.
Yeah. Well, really confident people, it's like really sophisticated people. I mean, people who think they're sophisticated just because they like Shakespeare. Or they go to the opera. I'm that doesn't make you sophisticated. I mean, some people who are sophisticated do that stuff, and it's a kind of a cliche. But it's the same thing with confidence. Yeah, there's a lot of people who think that they're confident, but they don't realize they're just kind of putting on a show.
Yeah.
And
it's not going to get them far, and also, I think at the end of the day, it's not going to make you happy. What I said earlier, if you feel like you need to act a certain way, become that first, and then approach girls or do whatever you want to do. If you feel like, oh, I need to act like I'm smart, or I need to act like I'm this, well, become that first. Why are you acting,
Oh, absolutely right. Or don't ask for something that you can't rise to that yourself. I remember I complained in high school to this girl. I was like, well, I said, what did I say? I said, I find it frustrating that women don't dress better. I would prefer that women dress better. You know, I don't want to date girls that are always dressed kind of schlubby, like the girls in my high school. And she looked at me up and down and she goes, well, you don't dress that great.
Definitely.
And I remember, to this day, I remember like looking at her like, holy smokes, I was like, she's right. Like, if I want a girl that dresses well, I gotta dress well. And from that moment on, I took an interest in fashion, right? I started like really paying attention to what I was wearing. Not that I look that great now, but normally I look amazing.
No, people are really good at that. You know, even like I have girlfriends who have told me like, I want a man who is like hardworking and successful, let's say. Yeah. And I'm always transparent. I'm like, well, are you hardworking? Like, are you successful?
Well, I don't know if it necessarily needs to be, you know, a 1-to-1 ratio. Like, if you want this, you have to be this. But you have to have a sort of equal value in some way.
Well, yeah, I think I definitely get what you're saying, but it's like people are so, like, it's so easy to look at what you want and not what you are.
That's what you're saying is absolutely right. That's a biblical thing, actually. It's I think Christ says something like, "Do not judge the man with a splinter in his eye without first tending to the giant beam in your own eye." Right? This is like a biblical thing.
That's something I definitely try to live by. You know, even with friends, if you're like, well, they never asked me to do anything, like to go out. Yeah. You know, look at yourself. Are you, like, how much are you participating? Like, where's your responsibility? I think the whole responsibility thing, which is one of the things I really, that got me to watch Jordan Peterson, which was that he talks so much about responsibility. And I definitely agree with that. I hate the victimhood, you know, for any person, man, woman, like, regardless of your religion or where you're from, like, don't victimize yourself. This is your situation. Go upwards. Period.
I love it. I love it. Lana, you are not a feminist. What is it again?
I'm a logamist.
Yeah, a logamist. We are logamists. I like it. All right, that's fantastic.
Starting a movement.
We're starting a movement. All right, well, that's it for Lana and me. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you want to see more like this, go ahead and subscribe. And if you like Lana, go ahead and subscribe to her channel. It's actually pretty cool. And if you hate us, you're probably a MGTOW guy. Sorry, guys. Have a good night.
President Washington began this tradition in 1790 after reminding the nation that the destiny of self-government is finally staked on the experiment entrusted to the hands of the American people. For our friends in the press who place a high premium on accuracy, let me say, I did not actually hear George Washington say that.